I'm very excited to introduce the CEO of Vbrick, Mr. Paul Sparta. Please give it up for Paul. Thank you very much for making time to be here.
All right, great to be here.
And here you go.
All right, we have the control. Hi, everyone. Great to be here. Fun stuff.
There you go.
Oh, I went backwards. Here we go. Trying backwards here. So I changed the title of this to Surviving the Content Tsunami, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love Media. Does anybody get the reference? Anybody get the... Dr. Strangelove, that's right. That means you get a prize later. So I think it's very similar. We live in a world which is very unusual right now. I think everybody here has probably seen, just in the last month, the dramatic rise in AI videos on TikTok, usually involving stupid humans doing stupid things, which are very funny, or giant outsized animals or anything like that. That is just the big tip of the iceberg of what we're seeing in media. Right now, projected by the end of this year, which is coming close, 82% of all internet traffic is video, which is shocking, which is media in general. So we're talking video, audio, everything. And furthermore, the growth rate is going to double every 2 to 3 years in terms of the total quantity. The amount of data moved every day on the internet of that 82% is something in the order of about 48 quintillion bytes a day, which is shocking. So this is dominating everything that we do. And the biggest question that we ask ourselves now, particularly in this world, is it true? Is what we are seeing true? And what does true mean is a very important thing. Everybody's heard deep fakes. Everybody's heard, aware of AI-generated video. Let's dispel the first myth. Just because AI touched it or generated doesn't mean it's fake and doesn't mean it's not true. There's probably $2 billion plus of market cap invested right now in companies that generate AI video. So a lot of AI video is perfectly legitimate, perfectly true. But what does true mean? And this is important because it ties back to some of the things that Gavin was talking about relating to personhood and entityhood and those sorts of things. In this community, of which I'm kind of an outsider, which is kind of fun, that I'm like an outsider a little bit to the Polkadot community, and I really love it. It's quite fun. And it is that trust is a very dirty word, isn't it, here? Like, we don't like that word, trust. I think that's a little bit misleading. We want truth, but what is truth? And we want trust, but what we really mean by trust is we don't want to have to trust someone else. That's what we really mean when we say we want trustless. We don't want to trust somebody else. Well, who do we trust? Anyone? Ourselves. We trust ourselves. And this is an extremely important concept, because trusting yourself and the decisions you make is the only thing as an individual that you can rely on. And if you think about trying to understand in this tsunami of media, the tsunami of content, well, what's true? What can I rely on? Obviously, when you look at the news today, there's no shortage of information that you wonder, I don't know. But I'll bet you every person here has sources that they trust. They go somewhere for their news, somewhere for their music, somewhere for their information. If you try to detect what's real and not real, it's an impossible task. The fakes get better, this gets better. it's the wrong way to think about the problem. What we have to go to is how do we use individual trust, proof of personhood, and also its sibling entityhood, because it is important to know not just who individuals are, of which Gavin's research is extremely interesting to us, but also you have to know who entities are. Who is FedEx? Can we rely on, do we know that it's really FedEx? Do we know that it's a drug company that's producing something that you're taking every day that's important for your life? Do you know it's their information? So we also have to understand proof of entityhood. So how do we turn the trust and the entire truth game upside down into something workable? Well, the first question we have to determine is it a person or is it an entity? Whose content it is? That's the main thing. And so no matter what you trust, whether it's the New York Times or so-and-so who posts on X or whatever it may be, that's for you to decide. But once you decide that you trust, say, that person on X, like I go to Jay. Jay's always, I trust Jay. So how do I know it's Jay's content? Well, I don't. That's the problem. But what if I did? What if I actually knew that every time I went to Jay, that it was his content irrevocably? That is what we are attempting to do with Polkadot Verified Authentic, is we are trying to change the game on identifying who you trust and being able to make sure that that is absolutely authentic. And it takes multiple pieces to do that. The first thing it takes, and I encourage everyone to go to these websites, is it takes what's called content credentials. Content credentials is an effort that has been formed by an organization called C2PA. C2PA stands for Coalition of Content, Provenance, and Authenticity. C2PA was built by a coalition of the giant companies that we all don't want to have to trust. AWS, it was started by Adobe, Microsoft, Google. All of the large companies are there. What is this about? It's the first step of this verifying authenticity, and that is, it is about a standard across all media and devices that embeds an encrypted watermark, invisible watermark in all media that records the provenance of that media, and it follows the media with it. So if it's something as simple as an image, a JPEG file, you've got this encrypted watermark indicating potentially even what device it came from, which digital phone it came from, the exact ID, all of that is embedded. That's nice. When you realize 82% of all internet traffic is video, you have to do that for every frame of the video. That is what you call computationally expensive, because you're generating a unique encrypted hash for every frame of every video. Now, it's important, but it doesn't solve the problem because it can still be attacked. The next trick is, once we have this information, what we're going to do at Verified Authentic is we're going to put it on chain, and we're going to be able to compare in real time at any given point. I like using Jay as an example. I'm going to go to Jay's content. Jay has a video. Jay made the video. It's a Space Monkeys episode. I know, because I probably watched it. Okay, so Space Monkeys. How do I know it's the real Space Monkeys, though? Because, one, Jay has invisible watermarks on the Space Monkeys episodes to note that they are his. But even more importantly, Jay has a record on chain containing that encryption data and matching it. Jay has said these are the only valid sources. So any transaction, any view of Space Monkeys, as it will be in about 6 months, will have and check the chain immediately to see, is this the authorized location? Does it match the encryption on chain? Does it match the media? If it is not, it will not get that check mark, nor the verified authentic check mark that will stay inside the media player, whether that's audio, video, image, whatever. This makes sure that when we look at Space Monkeys, we know It is the only real authentic space monkeys, not that fake Jay who keeps publishing all that junk claiming to really be space monkeys. Not that that person's actually out there. So what does a system like this really need? What must it have in order to be successful? First of all, that's what we're calling it. How do we like this little blended logo we've got here? Verified Authentic is the name of the service. We do have it. It's available. VerifiedAuthentic.io is where you can go learn about it. What are the musts? First of all, it must operate on a Web3 public blockchain. The very concept of saying we could build this and put it on AWS, I don't think anybody in this room would think that's a good idea. It's not a good idea. It needs to be on something that is untamperable and publicly available. And this comes back to a bigger point that I, as an admitted outsider, have said here, and I would say to everybody developing applications. The first applications you should think about are the ones that must run on-chain in order to be successful. Not things that are nice to have within this community, things that must run on the chain, otherwise they don't work. And this is one of them. The second thing is it has to be available as an open protocol that can be used by any media development site. So this protocol and the APIs and everything associated with it will be open sourced, meaning anyone who wants to deliver or own media, including perhaps Muber, who we just saw, which was a very cool thing, can use Verified Authentic by embedding the API and using it. And that means they'll always be able to know that content creator, in fact, was the one that owned that, regardless of how many different media distribution outlets you use, as long as the Verified Authentic and the content credentials are there. You have to use the industry standard content credentials. I encourage everyone here to learn about C2PA because I think it's so applicable to so many of the applications and cool things that I've seen being talked about at this conference. It is a very interesting standard, and it is something that you can use to develop applications and capabilities for the future, which is what we're talking about with Web3. And the last, and this is important, it has to be transactable in ordinary currency for de minimis per transaction costs. The very concept of saying I want to make my content completely verifiable does require a transaction, but it needs to be a teeny tiny transaction. Nobody is going to pay $10 a month for the privilege of using this service. They might pay $1 a month if they were a frequent uploader. A corporation has a huge interest in using this, and Vbrick will make this available to our corporate clients like FedEx or Ford Motor Company because they absolutely want people to know that their content, whether it's a recall notice or perhaps it's a pharmaceutical company that is giving a safety update, they absolutely are scared that this information could be faked, and they want people to know this is actually from us. And they want to be able to control not only what's from us, but what is available at any given time. If something gets updated, an old version, they want to remove it from the ledger. They want to remove it from the chain so it cannot be used again as verified information. If you think about what this means once it's adopted, it means that whitelisting, personal whitelisting by the one person you trust the most, yourself, or your organization, if you work for a company. The company, as a client, as an entity, can also whitelist. And now you have the ability to say, this is who we trust. We make that decision. We're not relying on somebody else to make that decision. What Verified Authentic is doing is it's allowing everyone to own and understand the provenance and control for their content, which is a revolutionary idea. And if it does work, which I think it will. Well, I know it works technically. It does work technically. If it gets adopted massively, it will blow the doors off Polkadot in terms of number of transactions. We're talking billions of transactions, potentially a month. Don't expect that in year one, But I can tell you this, just within our customer base alone, we will expect hundreds of thousands of transactions, even during our pilot, per month, once this rolls out. So it's pretty exciting stuff. And if anybody does have any questions, I am available around. I'm happy to talk to anybody about the good, the bad, and the ugly. And thank you very much for being here.
Actually, Paul, check this out. I want you to stay there because you didn't know you were going to get into this, but I've got a couple of questions for you.
All right.
So you don't know this about me, Paul, but I create, like Jay, a lot of content online, and it mostly lives on these Web 2 social platforms.
Yep.
The one that I do the most on is TikTok. And if you look me up on TikTok, Conversations with Evan, you'll find dozens of impersonators, a problem you're familiar with. They copy my videos, they repaste them, and they're really into something called pig butchering scams. A pig butchering scam, for anybody watching, if you don't know this term, I would really encourage you to look it up, is the process of getting close to a target. Maybe you start to build a romantic relationship with them. Maybe you are somebody who helps them invest in stocks or cryptocurrency. And so in my case, a lot of the time, people trust me to help them learn about blockchain. And so these scammers leverage the trust I have built by posting my content with a message me here. And then when somebody's alone in a message with a person they think is me, who directs them to put their private key into this website or send some cryptocurrency to me, and I will, they got a fake app that makes it look like your $100 is $200 and now it's $10,000 and they want to take it out to buy a boat and they can't. Or the scammer just ghosts them and they take their money, and there are billions of dollars every year that are lost to this crime. The scary thing, and this is where I want to ask you, is it's very difficult to integrate with these platforms. You said any of these platforms can make this kind of, it works with them. But do you know how hard I have to work to get the attention of someone at TikTok to get their API to play nice? So what I'm curious about is, technically it's a good product, but I have a need to use it on these Web 2 socials because that's where the audience I care about lives, and a lot of them don't play well with me. So what's your advice?
Well, I mean, first of all, we have to do our job and get it deployed. That's why I said one of the musts is that it's open. And by publishing the API, as it turns out, the head of security operations for TikTok is actually a good friend. This is a situation where we have to actually drive this to adoption. But let's say TikTok adopts our API. How would it change your life? Well, this is the difference. Yeah. Anyone that follows your content can go to your name and say, in the future, if TikTok were to enable this, only want to look at authentic Evan. Okay, so anytime an unauthentic you put any media on there, they would not see the verified authentic. Yeah. It would be immediately available. And if they turn on a whitelist, in the future there's enough, they won't even see the other ones. They're only going to see in a verified mode. You could run a TikTok client in a verified mode. And the verified mode is, it's only going to show people that have been whitelisted. So it gives you the ability to say, look, I can't stop an imposter. You can't stop that. That is the tsunami. You can't stop it. But what you can do is to make sure the people that care about your content know that they can get to you authentically anytime they want and easily, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on TikTok, whether it's on Vbrick, wherever it is. And whether they know it or not, yes, of course, they are using a Web3 app because we're going to the chain every time to make sure, nope, that's the one that is actually yours. So it allows you to build authenticity. There's a side effect that will happen from this, and that is the digital rights management world, which is where everyone right now goes in a Web 2 world to try to get and how to address their issues. That's my content, that's my copyrights being stolen. It's such a quagmire.
It's a pain in the butt.
But if verified authentic is adopted, almost by default, they can now say this is a DRM violation of your content by virtue of the fact that it's not on verified authentic. It makes their lives unbelievably easier, and it makes settling conflicts unbelievably easy because you can just simply ignore the stuff that's not verified. And that's what we see, a year or two down the pike could be revolutionary about this.
Okay, so just to make sure I understand it, it shifts the burden of verification from being a human process to this instant, effortless, errorless thing that now not TikTok has to sift through and do, but any user who can use the platform is pretty able to, Evan, verified? Yep, good. So it seems like the platforms would want to do this. And I'm going to need your guy at TikTok's phone number because my experience has been that they have processes for verification. They're not as good as this. But that do you have any insight as to why they have not done something like this sooner?
They're all overwhelmed. You made your example. Everybody has a few videos that they watch. I see this one on Facebook. It's like this farmer who has this bull named Rufus that does crazy things.
Yeah.
Rufus the bull, and then he goes and it's funny content. And then I suddenly get my Facebook feed is filled with Rufus the bull stuff that's stolen from this guy. I get like all these different, and somebody's stealing this guy's content, and I feel like this poor guy must spend his entire life. The reason you're not getting any satisfaction is because they're absolutely overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And they're going to go to the biggest people. So I think, if Taylor Swift has a digital rights claim, she gets a little more attention than we do. But this is the whole point of truly democratizing this in an open way. And I would foresee there would be a different workflow that you have, which would say, hey, I have an account. For $5 a month, I got 1,000 verified media entries I can make. You put up your next piece of media explaining your thing. It's verified. It's written on chain. It's got an encrypted watermark in it, and off you go. And your audience knows for your authentic content, they should only see you.
Yep.
And I think we're not going to have a problem. I mean, AWS is our biggest partner because we deliver massive, massive quantities of secure video everywhere.
Sure.
I've had the conversations with the senior people at those organizations. They're going to be eager for something like this.
That's good.
And I think they know if anyone, this is why they created also this C2PA, because they know if any one of them tries to say, oh, no, we're the trusted source for all of that, that's going to fall flat. That's going to go over like the proverbial lead balloon. It needs to be on-chain, untouchable, controlled by the content creator themselves, whether it's a person or whether it's an entity. So that's how it works.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for entertaining my questions. And please do give us one more time, the next best steps to take if we're interested in the links.
Okay, the next best steps would be go to verifiedauthentic.io. We're moving into our pilot in the first quarter. Our pilot will be done with initially with Vbrick's captive enterprise customer base. Won't be available for individuals yet. Once that gets through some adoption and we do it through ours, our next step is to promulgate the API to as many different other platforms beyond Vbrick itself as we can, and that's a no-cost thing. And then from there, moving on to individuals. So I think hopefully we'll have something really useful and available for everyone by this time next year, maybe a little earlier than that.
Okay, and when you do, we're going to want to hear about it.
Oh yeah, no, you're already going to be looking for it, so you'll know.
Cool. Thank you, Paul.
All right.
Give it up for Paul one more time. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much.
Mr. Paul Sparta.
All right, take care. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.